Well, after nothing in 2020, Marvel seemed that they're back into the swing of regular releases, but was this film worth the wait? As always, I'm Al, this is the Geek in Review, and I'm going to be doing a pretty spoiler-free review of The Eternals, but if you don't want anything ruined and you're trying to enjoy this film for yourself, look away now, I've got loads more content. Now, I grew up at a time when X-Men, Deadpool and Spider-Man were all the rage in the 90s, and this is what originally got me into Marvel. And after Iron Man came out, I began to fall in love with Marvel all over again, but one Marvel property I'd never read was The Eternals, so I kind of avoided any comic book backstory on these guys deliberately, because I wanted to go into this fresh. I did watch the trailers, but beyond that, I didn't really know what was going on in the comic books too much before now. Now, you've probably seen some of the reviews about this already, or at least heard about it, the Rotten Tomatoes scores, which, to be honest, didn't put me off, and I don't think it's going to put a lot of people off. If anything, some people might be curious to see if it's right, wrong, or anywhere in between, because after all, it is just opinion. And Marvel has been getting a pretty hard time of it recently with all the Spider-Man leaks, but no second trailer. So does it live up to the hype? Or I suppose in this case, the lack of hype? Well, it's hard to tell. The actors all are good and the CGI is, well, pretty much Marvel stuff, but the Icarus flying was really good, and even though we've seen flying before in the MCU in WandaVision, in fact I think they nailed it there for a TV show, Icarus does have his own styles, but the rest of the Eternals, their abilities are pretty good considering in most cases we've seen this sort of stuff before with mind reading and super speed and that kind of thing. Now, I can understand some of the Justice League comparisons because it is all about assembling a team, but beyond that, it doesn't really feel that much different from the standard sort of Marvel formula, which we're all pretty familiar with now. The only main difference is their villain isn't really their equal opposite. Now, I said I'm keeping this spoiler free, but if you have heard any rumours about this movie, you're already kind of ahead of the game, and that's the problem here. There's no real revelations in this movie. Well, there's one, but none of the revelations that happen really change the MCU that much. And maybe after a year-long introduction of Marvel trying to build the multiverse, or the anticipation of Spider-Man, this film just feels kind of flat in comparison. Going back into the cosmic stories doesn't really feel exciting, and especially when the characters that are introduced us to that side of the MCU, like the Guardians and Thor, aren't even in this. There's no real continuity that feels that it's tied too much to the standard Marvel universe. But it was good to see the Celestials on screen finally. I'd always wondered if the MCU would ever touch this, and here they are, and it looks pretty good, it's fine, but that's just it. This whole movie is fine, and the MCU standard, especially after the Infinity Saga, shouldn't just be fine. And I have to say, I don't think the directing or the writing is really overall to blame for this. The Eternals have never been that exciting in the comics, and do you know how I know this? Well, have you ever met anyone that says the Eternals is their favourite comic book team, or the ex-member of the Eternals is their favourite comic book character? So no, you can't really blame the audience if they aren't excited about a film that's not really an exciting adaptation in the first place, that no one, to be honest, really asked for. But this is just my opinion. I do still love Marvel, but this feels like a snack before the main meal of Spider-Man and Doctor Strange. And I think it's going to be interesting to see the box office results on this one. I think it'll be 65 to 75 million domestically. But it's not getting a same day release like films like Dune have recently, and that might drive down the numbers. But one thing for sure, the reviews will probably going to affect this some way or another. But I do feel that this suffered from the same thing that maybe Captain Marvel suffered from, as it came out at the wrong time. And I'd include Black Widow in that as well. This film could have come out 5 years ago, and I don't get why Marvel's taking so long to do it now, when again they're getting into the multiverse stuff and not really touching on the cosmic stuff too much. But as always, this is just my opinion. Let me know what you think in the comments below, and please subscribe to the channel because I'm going to be doing more Marvel videos with the Hawkeye show and all the MCU content that's coming up. My name's Al, this has been the Geek in Review, thanks for watching.